Hello, everybody. My name is Adam, and I'm on a quest to be the most prolific reviewer of all time, which means I review books, movies, podcasts, plays, whatever. And recently, I've been on a bit of a Bette Davis kick. It started last week when I reviewed All About Eve. Then I watched Jezebel, and then I watched a movie called The Petrified Forest. And then I watched a movie called The Man Who Came to Dinner. And finally, probably not finally, probably watch it a lot more. I watched a movie called Bad Sister. So Bad Sister came out in 1931. And what I'd like you to do is to watch this review until the end and then let me know what you think about it at the end. If you like my review, maybe like and subscribe, but stick around to the end and then you can decide whether you want to do that or not. So, yeah, the movie came out in 1931, and this is the debut of Bette Davis. And it also stars Humphrey Bogart. And I made a mistake in the review that I did of The Petrified Forest because I said that that was Bogart's uh, film debut, but he actually debuted in another film in 1928. I don't remember what that was called, but so this was about 3 years after his debut. And he made a series of films in between the late 1920s and early 1930s. And he really thought that his future would be in film, but he kind of gave up around the early 30s. And then he came back for The Petrified Forest, which was the role that made him a big star. The film also stars Conrad Nagel, Sidney Fox, Zazu, and Zazu Pitts. And maybe I'll talk about Bogart and Davis because they're the most famous actors in this, and they would be iconic much later. So let's talk about Davis first. So this was her first role, and the movie is quite interesting for that reason, and it's interesting for a number of other reasons, which I will mention later. But the I'm trying to like think about what to say about her performance because it's not good. Like if you if you compare her in the beginning of her career to a movie like All About Eve, you can kind of see, like, you wouldn't be able to see that these are the same people. There's some like flashes there, but clearly she hasn't kind of developed her craft over time and become a great actress. And she's also not, like I said in the review of Jezebel, that and The Petrified Forest, is that she's not a beautiful actress. She's cute, um, but she's not an actress where the camera will like fall in love with her just like with static shots or something. You need something interesting for her character to be doing. And in this film, she's just kind of playing the morally virtuous sister, and she's supposed to be like quite attractive, but not as attractive as her sister, but still attractive enough to land one of the best suitors that her sister has. And so Humphrey Bogart, he plays. So the story of the movie is that there is like these three sisters, and one sister is the bad sister because she has all of these people who are interested in her, but she kind of gets conned by this con artist, and in turn, she cons her family, and the family loses a lot of money, but in the end, she is saved by one of her suitors, and the suitor that she was most interested in actually marries her sister. So everything works out well in the end. And the con artist is Humphrey Bogart. And I think with Bette Davis in this film, you can kind of see that there's a lack of understanding of her talents as an actress. And I think the same is true for Humphrey Bogart. I said in The Petrified Forest, he just oozes charisma, and the camera loves him, and he just like absorbs all of the attention, and it's really, really great. And in this, he's kind of forgettable. And I also said that his acting he was like reaching into parts of his personality. So he is playing himself, but he's playing like a version of himself, like a fully confident version of himself. And in this movie, he's not. He's not at all. So you can tell that something huge is lacking. And I think a lot, maybe myself included, a lot of people tend to sort of glorify actors like Daniel Day-Lewis or Anthony Hopkins, or people who can sort of inhabit a persona. But it's equally as hard to just be yourself in different movies and make it interesting. Like Tom Hanks is able to do this, Tom Cruise to a lesser extent, Brad Pitt also. So being a movie star like that is really, really hard. And I think maybe we're post kind of movie stars like that, but we'll see. We'll see. So it's interesting to watch for Davis's performance and for Bogart's performance or lack thereof. And going back to Davis, so this was her debut, and there's maybe two interesting things about it apart from it being her debut. One is there's a scene where she's changing a baby, and they didn't tell her that it was a boy baby. So she's like literally changing the diaper, and she sees, and this is the first time she's seen something like that, and she's like very embarrassed. So she got darker in the scene that she was playing. And that's a little bit of trivia, but also she's kissed for the first time on camera too. So it might be a bit of, the embarrassment might be because of both things. Um, yeah, and so she was kind of nervous going into this, and she asked some kind of makeup artist who was doing the picture, like what she could do, and basically he was so mean to her, like, "Oh, your hair is not a not a real color, and your eyelashes are weird." And then one of the producers, when he saw the movie, when he finished watching the movie, he said something like, "Can you imagine ending up with her?" Which is crazy. Which is crazy, especially because she would be like a Hollywood icon a few years later. So it's kind of like the guy who passed on the Beatles, actually. Yeah, so she watched the movie, and she watched it with her mom, I guess, and she didn't stay until the credits because she thought that that would be the last movie of hers. And it wasn't. Like, she made about 94 movies. So clearly she had a quite very productive and great career as an actress. But I don't think her feelings were invalid, because there's no, like, you don't see Betty Davis in this film. You just see this actress who seems to be out of her depth. And it's crazy because she has other actresses and actors who are like so interesting. There's like a boy actor who, like, he's just full of energy in life. Her The woman playing her sister also kind of had it figured out. So if you were going to pick who would have been the bigger star, you would have picked her, and she had top billing, but I don't think that she was a fraction had a fraction of the career that Betty Davis had, and that is actually Sydney Fox. Um, yeah, so this was her debut as well. So you would think that Sydney Fox would have been the one that would have been more famous than Betty Davis. But I don't know what happened with Sydney Fox, but Betty Davis was given enough time to figure out how to act. And same thing with Humphrey Bogart. Yeah, about the movie itself, it's interesting for those two very strange performances, but it's also kind of interesting because the movie is quite short. It's like an hour and 4 minutes, which, and it weirdly it feels long. It doesn't feel as long as some other movies that I've watched, but it definitely feels uh, way too it feels long and it's short. But the thing that is interesting about the movie is that it's on the cusp of the sound and silent film era, right? I think the jazz singer came out in 1930 or something. And recently I did a review of The Sound of Music on this channel. And no, not The Sound of Music, Singing in the Rain on the channel, and that movie is so joyful. And part of the story of the movie is how there's this great big film star, film actress, silent film actress, and she can't actually speak very well. So that's the like, oh no, we need to be in talkies now, and you can't actually talk very well. You can't speak very well. But the thing that that movie doesn't talk about, and the thing that I didn't really realize until I watched this movie, is that if you have a silent film, the gestures are so big. And it does kind of like talk a little bit about that, but the the gestures are so big. So they're acting, they're talking, and there's like people talking, but the sometimes the close-ups are like they're maybe about 20 seconds or 10 seconds too long because the the director is used to giving close-ups for silent films, right? And then some of the reactions are also reactions from silent film. I don't know how to say it, but there's a scene where a dad sees his like he sees his son for the first time, and he does like these weird mannerisms, and you can see that the mannerisms are supposed to show that he is like excited or whatever. So now we would just have a shot of him looking at the baby and not doing a lot, right? So that's kind of interesting, and also it's interesting how there's not a lot of incidental music, and all of the sound comes from like what's actually happening. So there's not also a lot of sound effects. So there's a guy who's walking and you can hear him like walking towards the walking towards us. And of course you would hear that too, but like it's clear that they recorded his sound. Like I don't know how to explain it, but it's just very sparse when it comes in terms of the sound production of it. And I think also we tend to think like this is a classic age of Hollywood in the 1930s, but they'd only been making movies at this point for about 20 years, maybe 25 years. So they don't quite know a lot of stuff that we know today. Like there are some interesting scenes, interesting shots in this, but it's basically very, very static. And when they do some action, the blocking is very weird. Like Betty Davis's character, she slaps her sister, and instead of having it so like if I go like this, you can see that I don't hit myself, right? But if I go like this, you, yeah, if I go like this, you can see that I'm not hitting myself. But if I turn like this way, it's just a simple stage thing, and they didn't do that. So you can see Betty uh, whacking at air in front of the actress who was playing her sister, and the actress who's playing her sister falls on the ground and faints. So not very realistic blocking, but I think it's an interesting movie in that regard. Is it a good movie? I don't really think so, but it's not the worst Betty Davis film that I've seen in this run, which I will review in a moment. um, yeah. Uh, so yeah, I would. It's an hour and 4 minutes, so if you have time, check it out. It's all right. It's an okay movie. Um, yeah, but you wouldn't predict that Humphrey Bogart would be the actor he would be, or that Betty Davis would be the actress that she would be. All right. If you're joining me on my journey through the Betty Davis filmography, tell me what you think about this one. Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Let me know. Please like and subscribe to the channel. I am trying to get to 150 subscribers by the end of January. I believe I'm at 139 right now, so I think it is completely possible. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.